To our GB News People's poll, should we, which is interesting this week. Now, the Conservative Party, as we know, just on 20% support across Britain. So we were asking, who should replace Keir Starmer as, well, not leader of the party, but leader of the country when the time comes, or if he should be replaced at all? Well, you've spoken and you've chosen nobody.
Sorry, but that's just terrible, isn't it? I mean, is there... None of the above came out on top. 51% said they don't fancy Nigel Farage, Boris Johnson, Penny Mordaunt or Suella Braverman to replace him. That's replacing Rishi Sunak, I presume. Yeah,
but I mean, interesting that of the people mentioned, Nigel Farage comes out on top. And, of course, Nigel is obviously not a Conservative.
And he's not an MP.
He's not an MP. Will he ever become an MP? I mean, it's comparatively unlikely, actually, the way these things work. Let's talk to political commentator Lettice Bromovsky, who joins us now. I mean, the one thing this highlights, Lettice, is that people are totally dissatisfied.
Yeah, completely. Exactly what you were saying just there. This is such resounding evidence from the public that they are just fed up. They want nothing more to do with the Conservative brand as it is right now. Like you say, there were 8 other people offered in that. And Nigel Farage came out on top, someone who is not a member of the Conservative Party, is not even currently a sitting MP. And all these people obviously sit under the sort of banner of conservatism, but they all have a really broad range of views within there. So again, I think it just really highlights that people are trying to distance themselves. I do think that the Nigel Farage coming out on top is particularly interesting because part of another poll that you did showed that the Reform Party is just 8 points behind the Conservatives right now. And although often it's very easy to look forward and be chasing that person in front of you, you do have to look back. And now I think the Conservatives will be thinking, what will happen if Nigel Farage chooses to join up with the Reform Party? Will that bolster them even further? Will that potentially put the Reform Party ahead of the Conservatives at the next general election?
It all comes down to seats in the end. And Reform, no matter how popular they may prove to be, they're just not going to get enough seats to matter, are they?
Well, that is obviously the likelihood. And our system right now, first past the post, is not very beneficial for these smaller parties. But what will be very interesting is the Wellingborough by-election that's coming up next month, where we've seen the Reform Party on the ground. They've been fighting sort of tooth and nail. They were the first people there. They put their deputy leader, Ben Habib, there. And they are really looking to show people and prove that if they can not potentially win the seat, but show that they can command a strong majority, show that they are responsible enough for people to trust them, whether that will push them ahead in the polls in any way.
No, it's going to be interesting. Lettice, thanks very much indeed. The other question with this is, and it's whether it'll happen or not, I just don't know, but the idea that before an election, some Tories may defect to reform. Which... would that have an impact on it?
It wouldn't have enough of an impact, though, would it? That's the trouble.
No, but in terms of it giving Reform more sort of credibility within our parliamentary system, it might do. Who knows? I mean, this election, it's why you need to stick with us here at GB News as your election channel, because it is going to be so fascinating to see. I wouldn't like to predict the outcome, apart from to say I think it's going to be a lot closer.
What could also... Do you reckon? I wonder whether there'd be a big turnout or actually a very slow, disappointingly bad turnout.
I think bigger than a lot of people are saying.
Yes.
I think it could be fairly big. But I could be wrong.
I mean, we've got all sorts of headlines. We've got Jeremy Hunt promising more tax cuts. I mean, there's blatant beginnings of a general election nearing. And I just don't know how it will go down with us voters.
Maybe pound in our pocket is what really matters.
Well, that's what politicians always reckon. When they do all the knocking on the doorstep. That's what they say is always the first. We think it's, sort of journalistic type interesting stories like immigration. And while those things matter, apparently they don't matter nearly as much as basically the fact that people feel they haven't got enough money.